more. And so we think they really didn't do their due diligence in getting that notice out, and those people should have an opportunity to be heard is really our argument. So we would like for them to do the notice correctly and hold the public hearing and let all of these people who found out about it after the fact weigh in, because frankly, that's what the city ordinance requires, and we think that's what due process requires, that people should have an opportunity to have a say before the council makes a decision like this.
The city of Austin, they're no stranger to send out notices and saying, there's a upcoming change that may affect you, and here's a website for information, here's the date of the public hearing, blah, blah, blah. Usually and typically that's notice for zoning change, and it's the same rules. The city, by their own numbers, said they identified 1,763, quote, abutting property owners along Manchaca Road, and sent them all letters along with a link to a survey. And out of 1,763 people, 63 people responded to the survey. And of those 63, 83% were in opposition, were against the change, and 18% indicated they supported the name change. I don't know how typical a response rate that is, but if they're sending out 1,800 notices and only get 63 responses, something about that letter, if it went out, didn't resonate. Because you've got well more than 63 people right now that are fairly upset about it.
Right, and many of them did not receive notice. Granted, some of those people who are upset about it are not landowners. They have businesses, but they're leasing or renting, so they would not have been required to receive the notice, although they certainly, I think, still have every right to be concerned about what's going on. The point in our lawsuit is that the people the city was required to notify, apparently a significant number of them did not get notice, regardless of what they say they did. I'm not sure where those notices went, but they didn't get to the right people. So.
Well, Mayor Adler, on 2 occasions since all of this has come up, has acknowledged publicly, here on the program, that there's a better way to do it in the future. That's how he's put it. Which is, for instance, if you're living in one of the numerous multifamily complexes along Manchaca Road, there could be, 200 different apartments there. Well, the owner of that apartment complex, likely one of those big companies, got the notice, and likely they got that notice sent to maybe Dallas or wherever they're based. They, in turn, apparently don't necessarily, maybe ever, send that notice on to all their residents who, qualifiably are stakeholders in this, because that's what their driver's license reads, that address, for instance. And so, I guess part of your case is that they didn't know about it?
Well, that's not really part of our case, no. Because we're looking at the people who were required to get the notice are the actual property owners.
And they got it.
The plaintiffs in our suit didn't get it.
I see.
We're not claiming the renters should have gotten it, because that's not what the ordinance says. We're claiming that there were landowners that didn't get notified.
Well, the mayor has said that in the future he's asking the city manager and all. So we got all these we got better ways at our disposal. For instance, the utility bills. We know who lives there. We could send it directly to them. Should that not have happened? Because this is not exactly like a zoning change.
No, I mean, I think the more notice they could have sent, it would have been better. But, the bottom line is, although they're claiming that there's more that they could have done, I guess my point is they did not do what they were already required to do properly, which was to notify Manchaca Road. So that just didn't get done correctly for whatever reason.
Gotcha. So you filed this request for injunctive relief or a stay on all this yesterday?
Correct, and we're going to try to get in front of a judge either later today or first thing in the morning, because as you've already noted, this goes into effect tomorrow. So we need, and I'm in the process of working that out with the city attorney's office, but we need to get a decision here in fairly short order. So.
How good is, or what's the predictability of the Travis County District Court getting a judge to look at this and hear it today.
I think that there's the ability to do that. There's provision in the local rules for emergency relief, which is what this is, to get it heard. So I'm not too concerned about that. The outcome is a little bit more unpredictable, but getting it heard, we can certainly accomplish that.
And in the public hearing, which was part of a regular council meeting in October, they heard from both sides and decided that the council did that there was enough history to convince them that the name should have been Manchaca, not Manchaca, and to do right by Jose Antonio from San Antonio, they wanted the name changed. And the cost involved, we're told, are the signs that are in the city, and that the organization that is behind this, which is a 501c3, Justice for Manchaca, raised the $23,073.97 necessary to cover the sign fee. So there is an allegation here, or an assertion, that there's no cost to the city whatsoever. And you're saying, well, maybe not to the city, but to those affected, quite a bit of cost?
Yeah, quite a bit, because they have to change their signage, all of their licenses. If they're licensed by the state or federal government, they're required to change their licenses. They're required to change advertising, promotional material. I mean, there's all kinds of costs to them for doing this. So I think it needs to be considered very, very carefully. And, to your point on the history, and I don't want to get into that too much because I'm not a historian and I don't claim to be a historian, but it appears to us that the story about the name change has a little bit of a hole in it, because the name Manchaca was on maps about 30 or 40 years roughly before Captain Manchaca was supposedly there, which kind of tells us that somehow or other it got named with the A before the fellow who spelled his name with an E even showed up on the scene. So I'm not sure that anybody is terribly clear on the history, but there's certainly a bit of a hole in that story. So,
but the major thing you're arguing, at least today, or presenting to a judge is, we can get to all that later. Bottom line is, those who were affected the most had no idea this was coming, and it starts tomorrow, and Judge, you need to give us time to sort this out. Is that basically it?
Well, that's it, and then basically you need to do your notice correctly and have a hearing and let those folks who are most affected have their say, because they didn't have an opportunity to have their say. That's really the bottom line.
In looking you up yesterday, you've done a lot of work in litigation work in government, municipal stuff, Texas government and all. Why'd you take this case?
Because I believe in due process and fairness, and I think, if the city of Austin can come along and change the name of your street without even telling you about it, which is essentially what happened, at least to my clients, to my plaintiffs, that's, they found out about it after the fact. I mean, that's a little bit of a sorry way of doing business, I think, and that needs to be corrected in this case. It certainly needs to be corrected going forward, and since you've done some background on me, that's the sort of thing that I do. It's the sort of thing that I take on. I mean, when a few years ago, the ratepayers outside the city of Austin got a little upset about being charged high electric rates when they were not getting city services, although they pay Austin Energy for their electric rates, for instance. So,
well, you were that guy.
I represented those folks. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Their rates taken down. So, it's the sort of thing that I take on. So,
Well, good to know you. Good to know you, Roger. Let me get it right. It's just like it's spelled, Borgelt.
It is, although I like the Borgelt thing, and I'm thinking of going to city council and getting it changed.
You just tell Mark Fisher that's how you pass it.
Very good. Roger, we'd like to stay in touch with you, and best best of luck today on your proceeding. I know you got a lot of dedicated folks have come to you and are counting on you. Appreciate the opportunity to get the other side of the story. I know some of the TV stations and all. Were you part of that press conference yesterday?
I was.
Yeah. Not necessarily did they go as in depth as to talk directly to you in some of the cases. So I'm glad we got a chance to do that.
Yeah. No. They covered the press conference, and they talked to the business owners, which is the most important thing. So.
Oh, that's what you wanted.
Yeah. Right.
Well, thanks for giving us what we wanted. Chance to talk to you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. That's Roger Borgelt, excuse me. Now, why is this such a mental block? I'm blaming Mark Fisher.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Mark said, Bob, I said, what's your attorney's name? He said, well, it's Roger something, but it's really complicated, and he doesn't pronounce it right. He pronounces it Borgelt, and it's spelled Borgelt. And now I got a mental block.
You think Roger's just messing with Mark Fisher?
Roger Borgelt. It's going to be a pretty interesting day today. We will find out. Sports in the program brought to you by GT Distributors.